This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the Command Post Live. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. So, I told you guys that every time the Commanders have an off day, something happens. They stay active. They stay busy. No time is wasted. They're always trying to better this roster, trying to figure out ways to manipulate the 90-man roster. And this is what you do when you're in this particular process that they find themselves in right now, trying to get to where they can field the best 53-man roster. And sometimes that means preserving the guys that are currently on the roster that you know are going to make this team, preserving them as well. So in a move, much like the ones we've seen in the previous weeks, whether it's Taylor Stallworth at defensive tackle, knowing that Johnny Newton and guys like Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen wouldn't be playing in the preseason game, and you don't want those guys having a ton on their plate. Or, Amani Taylor being signed at tackle, and, knowing that you had some injuries with Wiley and Lucas and Coleman, and you don't want to put a lot on their plate, so you bring in another tackle. Same deal here. Mason Brooks cut today. So I take my first L of my 53-man roster that I put together way too early, if you ask me. But I did it on behalf of Bleacher Report. And Mason Brooks cut. I thought he had a shot when I found out that he was out there at tackle with the first team at one point, getting reps. Like, wait, Mason Brooks, the same Mason Brooks from Ole Miss that was undrafted last year, that Mason Brooks playing at tackle? I thought he had a shot. I felt even better after that. And they was like, nah, bruh, not gonna work. So Mason Brooks, snip, 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 cut him to make room for quarterback Trace McSorley. Why are we making room for quarterback Trace McSorley? He stinks, by the way, just so we're on the same page. He stinks. Why are we making space for Trace McSorley? Because not only is Sam Hartman injured, and we talked about that already, he's not going to play more likely than not in the preseason game because he hasn't practiced all week, and I don't think he's going to be available for the joint practice against the Dolphins. And head coach Dan Quinn already said that if you don't practice this week, you're not playing in the preseason game. So Coleman's not playing. Jordan McGee's not playing. More likely than not, Sam Hartman's not playing. Probably Johnny Newton's not playing. All of the guys that we've talked about that are a little banged up right now, nursing injuries, not going to play more likely than not in this game. So he's out. And then we learned today, Marcus Mariota, a little banged up, minor injury for Agent Zero. You know what I'm saying in the back of my mind, right? You guys know what I'm saying. It's Jeff Driscoll time. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, can we have two JDs in the quarterback room? JD 5. What number is Jeff Driscoll, y'all? I forgot already. Is he 12? Is Jeff Driscoll 12? Whatever number he is, JD, whatever number he is, right? Can we have two JDs in the quarterback room? They're not going to cut Marcus Mariota. He's making this team. If he doesn't play another snap in training camp or the preseason, Marcus Mariota is probably still QB2. 16. Somebody said Jeff Driscoll is 16. We're going to roll with that. JD 5 and JD 16. Those are our two quarterbacks. Let's roll with it. I'm game if you game, right? They need somebody to eat some of these reps because nothing's changing with Jaylen Daniels. He gets his 1 or 2 possessions in his preseason game, and they'd hate to put the rest of the game on Jeff Driscoll's shoulders, but they'll do it if they have to. Enter in Trace McSorley. He knows the system. He played in Arizona with Cliff Kingsbury, so he can seamlessly jump in here and take reps and get ready to rock and roll And that's what they need. They need somebody to eat reps at this point. I mean, Jeff Driscoll could play the entire, 3/4 of this game after Jaylen Daniels gets his 1 or 2 possessions, and he can play the rest of the way. They really don't want to ask him to do that, though. They don't have to. So enter in Trace McSorley. It's not like you're that worried about reps in practice, because they were already trying to find ways and create ways for Sam Hartman to get reps in practice as the third quarterback. So it's not like they're worried about somebody eating reps between the first 3 guys. It's more so in these preseason games where Jayden isn't going to be taking a ton of reps. And you don't want Jeff Driscoll out there for 3 quarters by himself, essentially. You'd like to split that up, get Jeff out there for a quarter and a half, and let, Trace McSorley eat the rest of the game. Sam Hartman was going to be able to do that. I value Jeff Driscoll. I do. So Trace McSorley serves a purpose. Obviously, he's not going to make this roster, but Mason Brooks, it was nice knowing you, bro. So another one bites the dust. So I'm going to jump into the joint practice versus the Dolphins tonight. Kind of preview what I'm going to be looking for with this practice. And similar to what I did the last time when we did this for the Jets last week, I'm going to give you my 7 key matchups, things that I'm focusing in on heading into this joint practice. It's not going to be that dissimilar from last week's list. However, after seeing how things went last week, I think I have a better understanding of how these joint practices are going to work and, what I should be looking for and expecting. So I'll tell you what, it's less about certain matchups. Like last week, I got very particular and specific. That's not going to be the case this week. It's more about positional groups, and certain things that I'm looking for from those positional groups. So with that said, let's dive into, and let me ask y'all a question while we're here. Shit, why not? Matthew Judon was traded for a 3rd-round pick today to the Atlanta Falcons. Would you have traded a 3rd-round pick for Matthew Judon? Keep in mind, Matthew Judon wants a pay raise. He's 30 some odd years old. How old is Matthew Judon? Let's find out. My guess is he's 30. I'm going to say 31. 32 seems a bit much. I'm going to say he's 31 years old. Matthew Judon is 32. Damn, I should have stuck with my gut. He's 32 years old. 32 years old. He just turned 32. I think I seen that his birthday was in August. Is that right? Is that right? Matthew Judon's birthday, August 15th. He literally, no. Is he going to turn 33 here? Yeah. He turns 33 tomorrow. So would you have traded a 3rd-round pick for a 33-year-old linebacker? Would you have done that? I told you no. I wasn't willing to do that. This is the difference between where we are and where the Atlanta Falcons are. The Falcons think they're in a position to win a Super Bowl this year. It's why they spent the money on Kirk Cousins. It's why they're going after it. It's why they traded for Matthew Judon. It's why they were aggressive in free agency, adding the receivers that they did. They felt like had they play in a bad division, first things first. They play in a poor division, so they feel like there's room for growth in the NFC South, right? They felt like they could have easily won 10, 11 games last year if they had better quarterback play, and they probably aren't wrong about that because they still won, I think, 7 games last year, if I'm not mistaken, with their quarterback situation being what it was. So now entering Kirk Cousins, you got Bijan Robinson, you have what's the tight end's name? Golly. What is the damn tight end's name? Pitts. Kyle Pitts. Got Kyle Pitts. I feel like they signed the receiver from USC they drafted a couple of years that I didn't like. In that same draft with Jahan, he actually looks really good. He looks really good. So Drake London, you have they signed Darnell Mooney in free agency, which I love that signing for them, among other things. And now you add in a pass rusher like Matthew Judon to a defense that wasn't that bad. Now, they lost their defensive coordinator in the offseason. I think he's in Jacksonville now, so that might be a blow. But look, Raheem Morris is coming in. He knows offense. He knows defense. I think they're going to be just fine. They're in a different space than we are. They're at a different point in their process than we are. So I'm just saying that 33-year-old pass rusher who wants an extension, not really what I'm looking to do. But good for Atlanta. Good for Matthew Judon. Good for all parties involved. We'll see how that works out for them. But anyway, let's get to the proceedings this evening. So just going through some of your comments real quick. Scratch More Fortune says, nah, give me Reddick. Lorenzo Simpson says yes. Stephen Strong says, I would have loved him. Tommy T says, nah. Darnell Kelly says no. So that's 3 no's, 2 yeses. Casper the Barbarian says he turns 32 tomorrow, Lou. It says August 15th, 1992. So, yeah, that would make him 32 now, wouldn't it? So I think, yeah, he turns 32 tomorrow. So I was right. Then technically I was right. He's 31, and he'll turn 32 tomorrow. I'm good on a 32-year-old pass rusher. So Dorgunner says no. 4 no's. Justin Goins says no. That's 5 no's. So, yeah, the no's have it. You guys kind of were in lockstep with me. I would have loved to have upgraded the pass rushing situation on this team, but I'm not that desperate to do it in a year where there are little to no expectations for this team. I'm saying that as a fan, right? This team doesn't know that there are no expectations for them. They're going to go out and try to win every single ball game, as they should, and just let the chips fall where they may. And they may win 10, 11 games, right? Now, you could have used a guy like Matthew Judon when you look up at the end of the season and we got a chance to play for a playoff spot, or we're in the playoffs and we're going to Green Bay and we're trying to get after Jordan Love, and we don't have enough pass rush, et cetera, et cetera. It would have been nice to have a guy like Matthew Judon, but that's not where we are in our process, right? So anyway, I digress. So let's preview the joint practice versus the Miami Dolphins and what to look for in tomorrow's joint practice as we head to, on a crash course to preseason game number 2 versus the Miami Dolphins. So number 7, when I'm feeling listy, I start listing things, and my lists are usually comprised of 7 items. You guys know how this goes. So here we go. Number 7. I want to see this defensive line versus the Dolphins offensive line. So if last week is any indication of how they're going to handle the defensive tackles, my guess is Daron Payne and Jonathan Allen probably won't see the field in this game. They didn't see the field in the game last week. Now, as you get deeper into the preseason, and this is the last real opportunity, I don't think you're going to see anybody really play next week, even though Dan Quinn said that next week is going to be more like a dress rehearsal in terms of the week itself, not necessarily the game, but they're going to treat next week's 3rd and final preseason game versus New England and the week leading up like a normal game week as they try to get them prepared for week 1 versus Tampa Bay. But I don't think that means that they're going to put guys like Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Jaylen Daniels, Terry McLaurin, guys like that on the field in this game, right? Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu. I don't think those guys see the field. So with that said, being that Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne didn't play last week, you would expect them to be getting a ton of reps in this joint practice. You want to see them go out and perform well, but not just them, right? You want to see the defensive ends, really show up and show out, and not just the guys on the starting unit, because I'm not really too concerned about them. They look good. They were out there. I'm talking about the others, after you get past the Dante Fowler Jr. and the Cleveland Farrell and the Dorrance Armstrong and the Jonathan Allen and the Daron Payne and the Johnny Newton I want to see the rest of these guys show up, because when that next unit came in, there were massive holes in the run game. The D-line wasn't effective enough. The linebackers weren't good enough. So I want to see more effectiveness stopping the run. And I want to see it from the first unit, because, again, we're going to see plenty of the second unit in the preseason game. And we could talk about that when we get to the preview of the preseason game. I want to see or hear that Jonathan Allen and Deron Payne and that first team defensive line dominated the Dolphins offensive line, because if they don't, Tua and company are going to have a field day against our secondary. We're going to talk about that, put a pin in it a little bit later on in this breakdown. However, I want to hear that they stop the run, because they got a track. They literally have a track team at running back, do the Miami Dolphins. Every single one of their running backs, I think, are faster than any single player on our football team. I'm trying to think, who's the fastest player on our roster? Is it Terry? I think it used to be Curtis Samuel. I think it might be Terry McLaurin now. And what's Terry? A 4.39, a 4.37, something like that. Every one of their running backs, I think, is faster than Terry McLaurin. I think Terry's our fastest player. I could be wrong about that, and there could be somebody faster than him on this roster, but no, it's not Jahan. Jahan's a 4.44 guy. He ran a 4.44 Moses Malone 40. Terry ran a 4.3 something. So I don't know who the fastest guy is. I'm just going to assume it's Terry. And if it is Terry, then all of their running backs are faster than anybody on our team. So at the end of the day, we don't want to let them get loose. I don't want to hear about any big runs, explosive runs given up by our first team defense. And it starts with the defensive line, right? So, yeah. I want to see this D-line go out, apply pressure to Tua, force the issue there, maybe generate a turnover or two by batting a ball in the air, or forcing Tua to throw it faster than he wants to and it gets jumped and picked off, or, forcing a fumble of one of these running backs, something. Give me something defensively. Jesus. We just haven't done enough defensively. It starts up front with the D-line. And we don't know if we're going to see very much of them in the game itself. So this work is vital to them being ready for the start of the season, week 1 versus Tampa. Running backs versus the Dolphins defense is number 6. I was so impressed with our collection of backs. It's one of the positions that I'm not going to lie, I've shit on this position outside of the top 2 backs, Brian Robinson Jr. and Eck. I've shit on the running back position as a whole. I've talked about how it's not super talented, how you don't have to divulge a 4th roster spot to that position in particular, because it's just not enough talent there. I don't love Jeremy McNichols. I don't love and never have loved, Chris Rodriguez Jr. And I'm Michael Wiley, RB3. I'm on the campaign trail trying to get my man on the roster. Last week was a great debut and a step in the right direction for him. He's turned some heads. It prompted head coach Dan Quinn to mention his name at the presser. I want to see him pick up where he left off, right? If he gets opportunities in this joint practice, take advantage of them. But we're more so going to see him in the actual preseason game itself. So I want to see him do that. We'll talk more about him on the preseason game breakdown. But I want to see these running backs continue to run hard. Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler were very impressive in their one possession versus the Jets. I want to see them be impressive. Like last week in that joint practice, we didn't run it well. We were awful offensively, and there were built-in excuses with the offensive line, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like the conditions are going to be better. The offensive line is healthier. No excuses. We should be able to run the football against the Dolphins and have some success. And it'll take pressure off of Jayden and the offense during these joint practices, or this joint practice rather, excuse me. So I want to see them run the football more effectively. So number 5, and this easily could be up higher on this list, but there are other things that I want to see more, and there's no true competition here anymore. So Riley Patterson, you're 5th on the list, bro. Make all your kicks. Last joint practice, it was inclement weather. Once again, baked in excuses, and that's fine. I had no issues with that. You still want guys to make kicks because, as I mentioned last week, you're going to kick in inclement weather. That's not an excuse. You know, when a police officer pulls you over and you say, I did not know that that was the law, the officer will be quick to tell you ignorance is not an excuse for breaking the law, right? You still get a ticket. Just because you're in a different state and you didn't know that you couldn't do this because you can do it in your state, they don't care. Ignorance is not an excuse. So the weather is not an excuse. You don't get a pass because you were kicking in inclement weather. This is going to be probably much better weather. No excuses. You got nobody, bearing down, breathing down your neck. There's no true competition. Although there could be. If I were you, I wouldn't sleep. But ultimately, go out and take care of business. You want this job? It's yours for the taking. They're giving you an opportunity to win this job. So go out and take it. Riley Patterson, is number 5 of the things that I want to see in this joint practice versus the Dolphins. Go out and kick the shit out of the football and be accurate doing so. You're probably going to get 5 kicks. I want to hear that you went 5 for 5. No worse than 4 for 5. But I want to hear you went 5 for 5, including one from 50 plus. Number 4. Offensive line versus the Dolphins defensive line. So I don't know how good the Dolphins defensive line is, honestly. They're all kinds of banged up right now. Don't expect them to be throwing their guys out there in a practice setting. They just got back the edge rusher that they drafted in the first round a few years ago out of Miami. He's just coming off of the PUP list. He tore his ACL last year. Bradley Chubb is still nursing his torn ACL, so he's not ready to come back quite yet. They did draft edge rusher in the first round of this past year's draft, and then they also let go of Christian Wilkins in free agency, and he's now a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. So this defensive line isn't all that great right now. I don't care. I don't care. So at the end of the day, here's my thought process. They're banged up. We're banged up, but we're much healthier than we were last week this time. We should have a semblance of a starting 5 out there. Minus Brandon Coleman, you've got your other 4 starters out there. So go out there and showcase your ability to move the football. Last week was an embarrassment in the joint practice from a running game standpoint. We couldn't even move the line of scrimmage. The Jets dominated us. It put Jayden, in a tough spot, and he didn't, have the ability to overcome long downs and distances during the joint practice. It was a mess. If we run the ball effectively, now he's in 2nd and 6. Now he's in 3rd and 3, and we can live in those situations, and he can be successful, and we can sustain offense. So I want to see the run game be a little bit more crisp and effective, but I also want to see how these guys protect. Cornelius Lucas was exposed last week, right? There was a video circulating on, this is how you can get Cornelius Lucas. This is how the Jets won against him last year in the game. They did it again in this game. So there's film out there on how you can beat Cornelius Lucas. I need him to tighten the hell up. He may be our starting week 1 tackle at left tackle. I need him to tighten the hell up. So at the end of the day, I want to see this group start to form some cohesion, because it's looking less and less like Brandon Coleman is going to be a part of this group come week 1. And so this may be your starting 5 right here with Cole Luke at left tackle. And if that's the case, let's roll, right? Let's start to build this fence in front of JD5, and let's go to work. So I want to see it here in this game. Number 3, wide receiver separation and Martavis Bryant. So much has been made about the receiver position this week. It's been a hot topic of discussion. Jahan Dotson has been released. He's been traded. He's been demoted. He's been some of everything within the fan base, with some beat writers throwing out some crazy stuff about, hey, what about a trade? And all of it. Like, it's ridiculous how, one, few extra snaps in a preseason game, and then a comment from the head coach that I thought was taken somewhat out of context can really shape and mold a narrative and have it take on a life of its own. And so they add Martavis Bryant, and that added fuel to the fire. And while they're not satisfied, and we talked about this, and I said this directly after the game, one of my biggest takeaways, and then I talked about it on Tell the Truth Monday, I said, they are not happy. This was before they signed Martavis Bryant, but we found out that he was coming in for a visit. I said, they are not happy with the receiver position. Them not being happy, I think a small sliver of that is Jahan Dotson. And I think it's more to do with his lack of physicality than it actually has to do with his ability to make plays. I think they like Jahan Dotson, the playmaker. I think they like his speed, his quickness, his ability to run routes, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think they care for his lack of physicality. And that's going to force them to have to do certain things with him, like not put him at the front of a wide receiver screen to be the lead blocker, which we saw in the Jets game, where he failed miserably. It's going to force them to have to put him in motion and put him in bunches and stacks because he struggles to get off the line of scrimmage and press coverage, things of that nature. And so I think they wanted to add more physicality, some size, all of that good stuff, which is why they brought in Martavis Bryant. Forget about all of that, though. One of the positions Dan Quinn said he wanted to see guys step up and create some separation at is receiver. He said that about corner more specifically, but receiver is another position that they want to see guys step up and make plays. I agree. Hence, the receivers, you got, and look, he may be a little bit older. I'm not going to call him washed because there's still some football that's good still in there, but they got Jalen Ramsey on this team defensively. They've got some corners. All right. So I want to see what these guys can do. Can Terry get open? Can, Jahan get open? Can Lamade Zaccheaus get open? And see if they can help out Jayden along with the tight ends. But also, what does Martavis Bryant look like? I'd imagine he's going to get out there some. There's only so much that he can know having only been here for 2 days. So I'm not going to, put a whole bunch on his plate, but it's not hard for them to say, hey, you running a go route here, or you're running a post here, right? The intricacies of the offense, he's not going to excel there, but they also have periods, individual drills where they're going to be doing one-on-ones against the Dolphins corners. He'll be able to jump out there and do those things. So want to see, and then they get into their red zone periods. Hey, run a fade, right? That's not hard to do. So want to see if Martavis Bryant adds any value to this team. I know it's short notice, very small sample size in terms of how long he's been here and been able to try to dive into the playbook, but he'll be out there. Let's see what he can do, right? Number 2, Jaylen Daniels' process. It's the same thing was at number 2 last week going into the Jets. I don't really care. Like last week, I didn't care about results. Sure, I would love it if Jaylen Daniels went out there and when the beat reporters tallied up all the numbers, he was 12 of 16 for 100 and 115 yards or so and 2 touchdowns. That'd be great. But I told you, he was 7 of 15 for 25 yards or less, somewhere in that 25 to 30 yards or less range. And I didn't give a shit. I cared about his process. He didn't turn it over, right? He had moments where he was getting the ball out of his hands quickly and doing the right things. That's what I'm more concerned about. Can he get them in and out of the huddle? What does the process look like? That's what I'm most concerned about because that translates, right? The Jets aren't scheming anything up. we're not scheming anything up. So, us going out and out executing them when you're not scheming anything up, it's tough. So I'm not as concerned with that. What does the process look like? All right. Are you able to decipher what the Jets are doing? If it's man, find the guy that's open, get him the football. If it's zone, find the hole in the zone, get the football there. You don't like what you see? Don't force it. Don't turn it over. Tuck it and run or check it down, which is what he did last week against the Jets, right? And then in the game, we saw him see the defense, saw the screen was going to be busted up because they had all these guys down around the line of scrimmage. He audibles, right? Changes the play, has all verts, and hits Dyami Brown. You love to see it, right? I want to see his process. That's all I care about. What does the process look like? So we'll see if he can do that again. And then my number one thing that I'm looking for in this game, or this joint practice, excuse me, versus the Miami Dolphins. You guessed it, cornerback play versus the Dolphins receivers. These are the best receivers we will see all season long. Now, it's not the best quarterback getting them the football, but you don't have to be a great quarterback when you got these type of weapons on the outside. When you got Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, you don't have to be perfect. You just got to get it somewhere in their general neighborhood. They'll do the rest. Whether it's a quick pass, whether it's a deep pass, whether it's over the middle, you get it to them with just a tiny bit of space, and it's God bless and good night. So I want to see these corners who have struggled mightily, specifically Emanuel Forbes. But the cornerback group as a whole has not instilled a ton of confidence in us, even outside of Forbes. We can sit here and shit on Emanuel Forbes all we want and make him out to be the scapegoat as if he's the only corner getting cooked. I saw in that same Jets practice, Benjamin St. Juste getting cooked by the same guy that was cooking Emanuel Forbes, right? Garrett Wilson, for a deep ball touchdown with the safety coming over late as hell. Okay? So let's not make this out to just be a one-man show getting killed out there at the cornerback position. This has been a collective group effort. So I want to see that. And again, we're not scheming up anything here. It's mano a mano. And I saw clips last week where Emanuel Forbes, I could tell the confidence wasn't there. It's 3rd and 9, and he's playing 10 yards off the ball, and we can't even see him in the screen. Garrett Wilson runs 7 yards, stops, hooks up, catches the ball. Forbes still isn't in the picture. He comes into the picture late, and Garrett Wilson cuts back on him, makes him miss, cuts back across the grain, makes 3 more players miss before picking up about 17, 18 yards on the play and getting a first down. I don't want to see that shit either. So you got to pick your poison, right? Because I don't want to see him coming up, trying to jam Tyreek Hill, or in the case of Forbes, he likes to come up and press, but not actually put his hands on you, which makes absolutely no sense to me, and get cooked. I'd rather him stay back and give himself a fighting chance, but I don't want you that far off that we can't even see you in the frame. So I want to see how these corners do. Michael Davis. This is going to be great experience and work for a guy like Mikey Samer still, because Hill and Waddle both play in the slot as well. They move around. So, Samer still is going to get some good work. I want to hear what Davis is out there doing. Juice is going to get some good work. Forbes is going to get some good work. These safeties are going to get some tremendous work because these Dolphin receivers apply pressure on the entire secondary. Before you know it, they're up on the safety. And if you're not on your toes, ready to go, if you're flat-footed, it's over. You already know the saying, if we even, we leave it, right? If Tyreek Hill is 2 steps away from you and you're not already bailed out running, you're cooked. Same with Waddle. You're cooked. By the time you turn and open up and they're already running at full speed, you don't stand a chance. So I want to see what all of the secondary really, but we can really narrow the focus on the corners. Hey, who else is stepping up at cornerback? Hey, Dan Quinn talked about, hey, who's stepping up? Noah Igbenogany made some plays in that preseason game, right? Against the Jets. He had some moments in that game where you go, okay, I see you, Noah. I see you trying to make this team. Who else is going to step up? Anybody else want to throw their name in the hat? Yes, no, maybe so. If not, that's cool. We got 5. If nobody else wants to throw their name in the hat. Like, Chig, if you're alive and you're well and you want some of this action, stand up. Right? Anybody else out there that wants a piece of the action, that wants to throw their name in the hat, speak now or forever hold your peace. This is your opportunity. So, I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys are going to do in this particular joint practice, because this is the best work that they're going to get all camp long. This is the best work potentially that they're going to get all season long. You won't see a more dynamic group than this. We saw them up close and personal last year, and it got Bubba Sparks quick, fast, and in a hurry. They literally, of all the ass whoopings last year, if the Dolphins wanted to do what they did to the Denver Broncos, they could have did that shit to us. They could have scored 70 on us. They literally had a mercy rule on us, and it was like, all right, man. hey, look, they've dealt with enough this year. Don't do it. 45 is enough. Don't worry about it. We're good. Because they had 45 like midway through the third quarter. If they wanted to keep their foot on the gas, I remember saying, if they want to score 60 today, this is embarrassing. Because if they want 60, they can have it. We had no answers for them. If they kept Tyreek in the game and they kept mashing the gas, they could have got 60. They literally said, all right, we see y'all waving a white flag. It's all right. We're not gonna do no more to y'all. It's bad. So we already know what these guys are. We saw it last year. Literally, Tyreek Hill took 3 steps off the line of scrimmage, saw Quan Martin helplessly across from him, and he laughed to himself, looked at Tua and said, hey, bro, throw me the rock. I hadn't seen a receiver do that shit since Randy Moss, but this was so disrespectful because Randy Moss would only do that once he caught up with the corner or the DB. Once he got even, he'd raise his hand. I'm leaving. Throw me the rock. I got him. Tyreek was still like 7 yards away from Quan Martin, and he already said, hey, yo, yeah, throw that shit up. Hey, I'm open. Throw that shit. Poor Quan Martin. Wow, that was embarrassing. Anyway, I digress. So that's what I'm looking for in this particular game. Let's get to the comment section, see what you guys are looking for in this particular contest. Shadow Striker 789. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Shadow Striker 789 writes, Lou! What up, Shadow Striker? Ready to lose in weekly pick'ems? I'm on a mission this year, man. I am on a mission. Also, when do we get the invite link to actually submit the picks into? So with the weekly pick'ems, that's going to come closer when the season's about to start. Nobody's making those picks now because you don't know what's going to happen, over the last 2 weeks of the preseason, things of that nature. So that'll be out probably that last week of August. I'll put those out. But the link to sign up for all the rest of the exclusives, the Winners and Losers League, the Soul Survivor Pool, those links are already out. They're down in the description of this video. I'm pretty sure the mods have done a great job because they're always doing a great job of putting those links down in the comment section of this live stream. And then also you can go to my X account. You go to my homepage on X, and I have it pinned, the links that you need there to fill out the registration. Then you just have to pay your fee. I got a video coming out, another hype video to get people to sign up coming out here in the next day or two. So be mindful of that. But yeah, it's on and popping. It's on and popping. We ready to get it. And I'm telling you, Shadow Striker, there's a different level of focus this year. I'm just keeping a buck with you. All right. I'm out for blood this year. I'm not playing any games. Christopher McLaughlin, my guy Chris. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Thank you for the generosity as always, Chris. I can't thank you enough for your unwavering support. My guy Chris writes, "Hey Lou, sup Chris?" Says, "Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise. Likewise. Hope everything is all good in your neck of the woods." He says 3 questions. 1, what are your expectations for Tua Tagovailoa with the contract extension and why? 2, how much of a difference do you expect with Tyler Ott now as our long snapper and why? And 3, who do you ultimately think is going to be our kick and punt returner? So I'll knock those down in the order in which you asked them. 1, I expect Tua to be more of the same of what he was last year. Like last year was, I think, as good as it gets with Tua. Tua is who he is. He was dynamic last year. He has dynamic receivers. Tua doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not the most mobile. You know, you have to protect him, and he's not going to be some, fearless gunslinger out there. But what he is going to do is, for the most part, in the short to intermediate in particular, is he's going to put the ball right where it needs to be for his guys to make plays and then, let them do their thing. He's in a great spot. The deep ball isn't always the best, but when you got Waddle and Hill, it's more than enough. They'll make it work. And I don't know how much better he's going to get over, the life of his career. Last year was pretty damn good. He was really good last year. He tailed off at the end of the season, as the Dolphins as a team did. And there were some rough outings. That game against Baltimore was ugly, right? So I think with the Dolphins, and I remember a Dolphins fan telling me this last year, we suck at the end of seasons. We're terrible in December. That's got to be the next step for Tua. Is we've seen them get off the hot starts. Tua's been, sizzling to start a season off. Tyreek Hill's putting up all these monster numbers. Waddle is out here doing the waddle, right, in the end zone, and all is well. Raheem Mostert is surfing in the end zone, and they're scoring touchdowns by the boatloads, right? Can you continue that when it gets cold? I've challenged the Dolphins. I question their toughness when the weather gets cold, when the calendar turns to December and it starts to get frigid around the league. Can they handle that? They have not shown that. When they went to Baltimore and it was chilly late in the season, they got destroyed. When they went to Kansas City, look, it was cold as shit. And look, I don't give a damn who you are. Those are miserable conditions. All right. Some guys handle it. Other guys don't handle it as well. That was miserable for both teams. But they looked like they didn't want to be there. That was the difference. The Chiefs were like, hey, we got a football game to win. And the Dolphins were like, we got a football game to play, but we really want to get back in the locker room as soon as possible. So whether we win or lose, we really don't give a shit. Can we just get this over with? That's the next step in the evolution of the Dolphins. And Tua Tagovailoa, they've got to show that they can win and play good football late in the season when the calendar turns to December. And so that's what the contract extension says to me, that you're taking this money and you're going to lead this team to bigger and better things. And it starts by winning games and playing more competent football in the month of December. We know what they can do in September, October, and November. Can you do that in December? And Tua is going to be a huge part of that if they are to take that next step. You want to take a next step? Win the division. The Bills have been the kings of the East ever since New England relinquished the throne. Here's an opportunity. Seize it, right? The Bills look like they're kind of, in sort of a, I don't want to say rebuild phase because they don't rebuild in Buffalo, but they're reloading right now, right? You heard the gun click. They're out of bullets. They're reloading right now. Here's your opportunity to get after them. Can Tua lead them? We'll see. How much of a difference do I expect Tyler Ott to make as our long snapper? A massive difference. Have we talked about long snapper at all this summer? Once. Prior to yesterday's press conference with DQ, in which somebody brought up Tyler Ott. Before then, had we talked about long snapper at all this summer? this spring. After we signed him, that first day of free agency when we signed him, and I talked about it, or day 2, I think he was signed, and I talked about it. Have we talked about him since? That's all you need to know. Tyler Ott is going to bring stability to a position that we should not be talking about. It's a thankless job. We talked about that yesterday. The long snapping position is a thankless job because if you're doing it right, nobody should be talking about you. Half of the fan base shouldn't even know your name if you're doing your job right. If we're calling your name, it's because something went really wrong or you had to do something that we shouldn't be asking you to do, like make a tackle. Okay? Either way, we shouldn't be talking about the long snapper. So the fact that we're not means he's doing his job, and that's what I expect from a veteran like Tyler Ott. And number 3, who do I ultimately believe will be the punt slash kick returner? I don't think it's the same person. So I've been out on a limb, and I still think Byron Pringle can get cut. There's no guarantees with him. I'm anxious to see who they throw out there to start the game. Is it Pringle and Davion Davis yet again? Because Davion Davis isn't making this team. I've already told you, though, after watching Davion Davis last week, I'm convinced that there's already a practice squad spot with his name on it because he was so dynamic as both a kickoff and punt returner in the preseason game 1 versus the Jets. So I'm like, okay, sign me up for some Davion Davis on the practice squad. So if anything happens to any of our return men, he can step in and there won't be this massive drop-off. However, I don't see him making a 53-man roster. I do think Byron Pringle has a chance, right? And so right now I have him as the kickoff return man, but you know, we've still heard Austin Eckler and a bunch of other guys have been back there. And so Kaz Allen and Mike Sainristil, they're still throwing other guys back there, but Kaz Allen isn't making this team, right? Are you putting Mike Sainristil back there? Are you putting Austin Eckler back there? Maybe, but if that's the case, shouldn't they be getting reps in the preseason games? If you feel that strongly about them, like, this isn't something you just want to throw a guy back there in week 1 of the regular season for his first game action. Like, you can do it in practice. You can't simulate this in practice, though. You could try, but it's not the same. So I believe that the guys that are taking these reps in the game are the guys that are going to be doing it come week 1. So when I see Olamide Zaccheaus back on punts to start the game off, I believe he's going to be the punt returner. And I have no reason to think otherwise. Now, Jamison Crowder could be the first one out there this week, and that would make me think, well, maybe Crowder's not going anywhere yet. But I think Olamide Zaccheaus is your starting punt returner, and I think Byron Pringle right now is your starting kickoff return man until otherwise notified. And if they roll him out there at the beginning of the game like they did last week against the Jets, and he's running back the opening kickoff again, I'm going to go, hard for me to think otherwise, right? So those two I don't think are going to be manned up by the same guy. Could they throw Olamide Zaccheaus back on kickoffs when the season starts, and he handles both the kickoffs and the punt return duties? Absolutely, they could, and I wouldn't even blink because I know he can do it. But if that's the case, why not put him back there now and just let him get an opportunity to showcase what he can do, right? So we'll see. Casper the Barbarian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Who writes, what up, LT? What up, Casper? I think y'all got a gem in Owens. I was banging the table for him to the Eagles in the late rounds. He might be a gem that we've unearthed. And they've done a pretty good job of hiding him. In the preseason, he's not getting a ton of reps at safety necessarily / linebacker. That may change. It will change in the 3rd preseason game for sure. He'll be out there, but special teams, he's popping on special teams, and it might get to the point where they may have to consider carving out a roster spot for him. Just like you're a fan of another team and you're eyeballing them. And I've always told people, somebody's eyeballing your stuff. Somebody's always eyeballing your stuff. Normally, when it comes to undrafted guys, you're pretty safe in that category. Nobody's going to come after your undrafted stuff because the league has spoken. If somebody really thought Tyler Owens was worth a draft pick, someone would have divulged one. No one did. So I think you're safe on Owens. If you cut him, you should be able to get him back. But he is a physical freak. That is for sure. So, we'll see what happens with him. He's definitely a different cat for sure. All right. So we got a bunch more comments. So we will get to those here in a second. But I am first going to get a word from one of our sponsors really quickly, and it is BetUS. If you're looking for a new book this football season, BetUS is the answer. Fastest payouts in the industry, 125% sign-up bonus up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits. Fast and easy deposits and withdrawal process. And if you're looking for the link to BetUS, my link is down in the description of this video. So check that out. Going to be doing a lot with BetUS this upcoming season. I love the odds thing. I love looking at different things. As a matter of fact, I got a great video coming out for you guys on Friday where there's some interesting odds that I want to discuss with you with some of the players on this team, Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson Jr. and Jaylen Daniels, and among others. So that's going to be a fun show. So hopefully you'll be able to tune in to that show and check it out and enjoy that one. And I want to hear your feedback because that's what those shows are really going to be about. So looking forward to chopping it up with you guys about that. But once again, check out BetUS. And my link is in the description of this video. So with that said, let's get back to the comment section and what you guys have to say about this upcoming joint practice with the Miami Dolphins. Pick up where we left off. RVA point of views. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. RVA point of views writes, I'll be attending joint practice in Miami tomorrow. Good. We've got eyes on the ops. I love it. Can't wait to put my eyes on this practice in the AM. Hope they are ready for the heat. It's been blazing down here all week. That's a good test for them because guess where week 1's contest is? Tampa, right? So they may be playing, and the first couple games of the season, it's usually hot. And if you got the wrong game, and keep in mind, guys like Deron Payne and Jonathan, these boys ain't playing in the preseason, or haven't at least. It ain't no replication for what it's like because you've been subbing in and out, and you've been taking breaks because now the second team defense is in against the first team offense, and in the preseason game you're out there for 1 or 2 possessions and then you're done. All that shit is out the window week 1, right? So you add in 93 degrees with, on the field with the heat index feels like 105. Like that could be week 1 versus Tampa. Could be week 1 versus Tampa. So this is going to be, good work for them. And I'm glad that they're getting some of this because who knows, week 1 could be very similar conditions for sure. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about the joint practices. I'll be checking. And I'm going to be on the move, right? So if you see something out there, RVA point of views, where my ex DM inbox is, hit me up. I'd love to read some of your thoughts about what you had, what you saw out there at the joint practice. I would love to hear your thoughts. Scratch More Fortune, been a member for 34 months. Almost up that 3-year mark, who writes, my eye is on Tyler Owens, 4 games to make the 53-man roster. So your eyes are on Tyler Owens for game number 2 to try to make the 53-man roster. He started out with a bang last week, made a couple of nice plays on special teams, and that got everybody's attention. And so now the question is, can you take the special teams to another level and then also translate some of that onto the field as a defender? So, because I don't know if Tyler Owens, you can reserve a roster spot for a guy just strictly off of special teams, because we already got a safety that does that. His name's Jeremy Reeves, right? And Reeves can play safety, which is why they got him out there. And he was out there relatively early in that Jets game, I may add, because they want to see what he can do, as a safety, because, again, we need you to be able to help. I don't think Tyler Owens is ready to help in a defensive capacity. And I'm not saying they're not going to be guys on the roster that are just, strictly special teams players, but you can't have but so many of those on the roster. If Reeves is one of those dudes, right? If we're going to keep the linebacker that we signed, Anthony Pittman from Detroit, he's pretty much a special teams linebacker. If that's the route we're going with some of these players, then you can't have a bunch of those on the roster. There's only so many roster spots you can have with guys that, even though technically Pittman can come in if you need him to, you really don't want him on the field defensively. Even though Jeremy Reeves can come on the field and play safety, you really don't want him on the field. And he shouldn't be, because you have so much depth at safety. So, I don't know. But Owens is going to make it tough, and that's what you want. You want guys to make the decision-making process tough, and I think he's doing that. Casper the Barbarian, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, TPS Sports on YouTube had Andrew Wiley on their top 10 most underrated players in football. Your reaction? I saw something similar to that. It wasn't that particular channel or list, but I saw, I want to say it was Pro Football Focus that said that Andrew Wiley was not as bad as we thought he was last season. Look, Wiley played better down the stretch. He was abysmal to start the season last year. There wasn't a game that went by in the first 4 or 5 where he didn't give up a sack or 2 or massive pressure on the quarterback consistently. It wasn't until later in the season where we stopped calling his name. He was a problem less and less. And, I mean, it got so bad everywhere else that we weren't even like individually checking for anybody at that point. We were so ready for the season to be over. So even if he was effing up, we weren't really going to even notice. But it turns out he wasn't effing up, and we still didn't notice because we were checked out mentally already. So he actually did get better as the season progressed. He got better, but we know if you put an elite rusher in front of Andrew Wiley and you ask him to block him, he's going to get his ass whooped more times than not. Where he excels is in the run game. We didn't run it enough. So I don't think Wiley is terrible. And I've said that before. Just like I didn't think that Charles Leno Jr. was terrible. But can you do better? You damn right you can do better. Andrew Wiley isn't terrible, but when the game was on the line against Philadelphia last year, 4th and 4, Hassan Reddick put his ass to sleep, ran right by him, and sacked Sam Howell. That's why Andrew Wiley is still a guy that we look at and say, he can't be our starting right tackle. Because when we have to have it, we don't trust him. And you can't help and chip on every single pass play. At some point, a guy is going to have to do his job mano a mano. And we don't think he can do it consistently. But hey, to each his own. If somebody thinks he's a top 10 underrated player with all these football players in the NFL, all these guys that don't get the credit that they deserve, if they think Andrew Wiley is a top 10 underrated player, bless his heart. Bless his heart. Or bless their hearts. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. GT7 writes, hey, Lou. What's up, GT7? I hope we get to see OZ and Senate in the lineup with JD5. Also, my bad for saying Diami couldn't block. My eyes were on Tinsley. I was like, I don't know where you're getting this Diami can't block narrative. That's one of the things that led him to get more snaps with the first team offense before he was making plays. Catching the ball was his ability to be physical in the run game, because we know how much Dan Quinn has preached physicality with the offensive players this year. It's all good. Well, OZ was out there early, and he was actually out there with JD5. He just, he only threw 3 passing attempts. So Senate, I don't think you're going to see him get a ton of run with JD5. But if there's no Ertz, which I would believe there wouldn't be, there's a chance that you can see Senate after his, I want to call it a coming out party last week, but I think that would be putting a little extra sauce on it. After the plays he made last week, I think he's earned the right to maybe see some early burn. If JD5 is out there for a second possession, maybe he's not getting out there on the first possession, but he's out there on the second possession, maybe Senate gets a little run with that unit. Who knows? We'll see him on the field when the season starts. That's for sure. Michael Mason II, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, told y'all we messed up passing on Kyle Hamilton taking Dot. Would Kyle Hamilton be any good here in Washington? That's what you got to ask yourself. Like, we do that. We play that game all the time where, we just saw JOK, right? Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah get a new deal from the Browns. And I saw JP Finley, tweet out for the we should have drafted instead of drafting this guy crowd, ... And it was him retweeting JOK getting the deal from the Browns. He probably would have been ass here, to be honest with you, because whatever we touched, with that last regime, we rotted it, right? So if we would have drafted Kyle Hamilton, we wouldn't have used him correctly. We would have probably had him playing free safety, playing away from the line of scrimmage, not utilizing his superpowers. We would have effed him up too, probably. So who's to say? At the end of the day, we got Jahan, and I'm rocking with Han, right? I'm rocking with Han still. I know a lot of you aren't. I am. Tizzy Bang, been a member for 34 months. Almost at that 3-year mark. I don't think Forbes is an NFL player. Am I wrong for wanting him to get burned and they go out and sign Gilmore? Yes, you're wrong for wanting that. Because is Gilmore going to solve all of our problems? No. And I can't stress this enough with the fan base. If they wanted Stephon Gilmore, again, this group in particular has seen Stephon Gilmore up close and personal. Hell, they see Martavis Bryant up close and personal, and they went out and signed him, and he didn't even play in an actual game last season. So if they truly felt like Stephon Gilmore was still a difference-making corner, don't you think they would have already signed him, or at least at a bare minimum brought him in here? So wanting Forbes to get burned so that his confidence sinks even lower and people continue to make fun of him and it looks bad, for them to do nothing doesn't make any sense. And even if that did lead them to Gilmore, Gilmore's like 33 years old. What do you really think he's going to come in here and do anyway? It's not like this guy's 26 in the prime of his career. They know him and they don't want him. What does that tell you? I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Anthony P. Been a member for 25 months. All right, nice. Over that 2-year threshold. My guy, Anthony P. Writes, I swear not to complain about Forbes this week until he gets cooked for the first time by Tyreek Hill. And he's so trash. We got to get rid of this clown. Oh, my God. I pray that somehow, some way, the damage is minimal against him and the rest of the secondary. Because it's going to end up on social media. It's going to end up on social media somehow, some way. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Red Wing 01 writes, the ball is in Stromberg's corner now. I see them bringing back Brooks on the practice squad, but it's up to Ricky to convince DQ to keep 10 O-linemen. Do you really? I generally don't think guys who get cut prior to the 90 to 53 man roster cut down are coming back. If I cut you prior to the official cut down, it means I respect you enough that I'm giving you a chance to latch on with somebody else because I don't believe in you enough to keep you here. You don't cut guys on August 14th because you want them on your practice squad. Mason Brooks is gone. He's in the wind. All right. Somebody else is going to have a chance to sign him, give him a chance to compete in camp, maybe make somebody else's practice squad. He's not coming back here. I'll be shocked if he's one of the 16 guys on the P squad. So to me, when you cut a guy before the 53-man roster cut downs, you don't want him. Like Amani Rodgers, when they cut him, he was done. He's now in Philadelphia, right? They didn't see any value in him. Just like Ramiz Ahmed, they're not bringing him back. I mean, unless there are dire situations with the kicking situation, they might bring a guy back in here that's familiar with the program, but he's gone. They don't believe in him, right? But I agree with you on Stromberg. This is his opportunity, right? I think they like him. They want to keep him, and they're clearing the path for him. Now go out and show why we're clearing the path for you. I want to see him make the team. I mean, look, we already spent the 3rd round pick. You might as well try and get something out of it. It's like buying a shirt and then realizing when you get home, I don't even really like this shirt. Shit, you already spent the money. That store has a no exchange or refunds policy. Can't take the shit back. Might as well rock it a couple of times and get something for it, right? Already spent the 3rd round pick on him. Might as well see if we can kick his tires and get something out of him. That's kind of how I feel. I think he's going to be one. I had Mason Brooks as one of my 10, so I'm inserting Stromberg into the 10 now. Red Wings 01, been a member for 22 months. Almost at that 2-year mark. Right, I got my eyes on Malik Washington and Chop Robinson. That was the 1st round pick they spent. Chop Robinson. Malik Washington, I saw him back on returns in the first preseason game versus the Falcons. And he was solid at receiver, but he wasn't a difference maker. They got this big white dude that they like throwing the football to at receiver with all the starters out. So Malik is going to be a guy that we'll see on special teams for sure. And Chop Robinson is super raw. I want to see what he does as well against our offensive line. So that is something that I will be maybe keeping a little bit of an eye on. GT7, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. who writes, Jahan doesn't play strong and aggressive. Which match with DQ and Cliff's play of style? I know for a fact that DQ has been disappointed in Jahan's physicality or lack thereof. But I don't that wasn't a secret. It's not like they got here expecting one thing and then he pulled a Houdini act on them and sleight of hand and they got something else. This has been the knock on Jahan Dotson since he was at Penn State. So I don't know what they were expecting from him. Again, I don't think that should change how you utilize him. You should have never been putting him in those positions where he's a lead blocker or you're asking him to go down and dig out a safety in the run game. He shouldn't be a crack defender, right? Like there's things you just shouldn't be asking Jahan Dotson to do. And that's okay. His size just dictates and you know, and look, there have been guys his size that have been dogs. Steve Smith Sr. is probably similar size to John, but he's got a different mentality, different, you know, set of skills, different physicality, all that good stuff. That's not Jahan Dotson, and that's okay, right? It's okay. John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JP, writes, good, Lou, good to see you as always. Likewise, JP, always good to hear from you. In terms of Dotson, I'm not giving up on him yet, but he's on borrowed time, it looks like. We may have to draft another receiver or go get Higgins, and our DN and cornerback depth is nasty. I do think that this is a big season. I said that at the beginning of this regime, right? When they came in here and they started to retool this roster, and we were in OTAs and, you know, I said, Jahan Dotson has to have a big season this year. I said the same thing about Daron Payne. I want to see a big season from Daron Payne this year. Like, there's certain guys that I need to see it from. Benjamin St. Juste, you want to be here next year? You want a contract extension? You want to stay here? This your last year, your deal. I need to see it. Right? It's just certain dudes that it's time. Right? You've been here long enough. I get it. It's another, you know, change for Jahan. This is his third year in the league, and he has been in 3 different offenses in 3 seasons in this league. Is that fair to him? No. That's just the nature of the beast, right? Deal with it. It is what it is. But I just think he's going to have ample opportunities this year, and I think he's going to take advantage of it. But I don't think at this point, seeing that they brought in Martavis Bryant and DQ pointed to his size, catch radius, physicality, red zone ability, you should want T. Higgins, regardless of Jahan Dotson showing, you know, what he can or can't do. You should want a guy like T. Higgins anyway. We got the cap space. If you feel like you can draft one, go right ahead. But I'm willing to spend the coin on T. Higgins. I'm willing to spend the coin on him. If he stays healthy this year and he produces, I'd love to see him in burgundy and gold. Mr. Pink, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Mr. Pink writes, sup, LT, double E? Sup, Mr. Pink? Random question. Imagine if a team plane crashed, leaving no survivors. What do you think the NFL would do? What happens? God forbid. That is a random question. I don't know what the NFL would do. That's a very morbid question. Why would you even ask that? Like, I don't even know why you would ask that question. That's a crazy question to ask. But obviously, they'd cancel all the games for that week. They'd honor that team the remainder of the season. They'd have to cancel all of the games with the team that they were playing. I don't know how they would handle. They might even cancel the entire rest of the season. I doubt they do that because there's a lot of money involved, right? But I don't know. There's a lot of things that the problems that would come up because of that. And yeah, that's wild. I don't even want to think about that. anymore. Mike Jink, thank you for being a member of the MOBB for 21 months. You're getting close to that 2-year mark. Writes Lemon Pepper Lou. What's good with you, Mike Jink? Lou, he says, what's good, my guy? What's good with you, Mike Jink? I'm ready to pop my ish this year. Sending you my funds this weekend. Hashtag go birds. Oh, I just want you to beat is she your wife now or is she still your fiance? I just want you to beat her. Like, don't worry about me. Okay. Don't worry about me. You worry about being first in your household. That's what you worry about. That's what you worry about. All right. You almost got last year. Okay. Keep your eye on the prize. Duncan Wright. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Duncan. Right. Lou, this is a simple question. Even you can understand. Why you guys suck? Ha ha hee hee. What's up, Duncan, man? What is going on? Did you do the thing I told you to do? I haven't heard from you since we had that talk. Did you do the thing I asked you to do? Something tells me you did it. You might not admit it, but I think you did it. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Duncan writes, and yes, I hate you all. 4 years ago, we tanked on purpose so you could win the division. Now pay us back. Meh. What you got? You tanked because you sucked. They had nothing to do with us. You didn't do us a favor. We were going to beat you anyway. You guys were trash. Okay. You better take advantage of this window. It's closing for you guys. I'm not saying, I'm just saying the division is getting better. The Giants are getting better. Washington's getting better. I don't know if I can say the same about Dallas, but you better take advantage of Washington still trying to get their shit together, the Giants still trying to get their shit together, because once it happens, your reign over this division and being dominant and, winning 4 or 5 or 6 games in the division, I don't think you ever sweep the entire division. You usually at least lose to Dallas once, or someone in the division once. It's over. You better take advantage of it while you still can. That's all I'm going to say to you. Because we coming. May not be this year. May not even be next year, even though it could be next year. But we coming. And when we get there, it's going to be hell to pay. So get all your jokes in now. Ha ha, hee hee. Get all your little jokes in now. I hear your jokes. Because shit ain't going to be funny soon. Shit ain't going to be funny soon. It might be for us. It won't be for you. It will not be for you. Anyway, I want to give a quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this live stream. Once again, if you'd like to sign up for BetUS, use the link in the description of this video. I thank you guys for joining me tonight. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time, whenever that is. I will leave you guys some parting gifts on my way out. So there'll be videos throughout the course of the week, 2 on Friday in particular, that I hope you check out. One will be a preview for the Dolphins game, a preseason game on Saturday. But I don't know if I'll be able to get in front of my laptop for the breakdown of the joint practice. I'm pretty sure at this point I should be able to watch the game. I don't know if I'll be able to give you the thorough breakdown that I want until I get back on Monday. So, but when I get back, we jumping into it. I don't care if you've been talking about the game for 2-3 days by then. We gonna talk about it. So, I look forward to coming back and chopping it up with y'all then. But I'm going to enjoy the family over the weekend, and hopefully you do the same. And hopefully nothing crazy happens while I'm out of the office. Everything remains intact and is good when I get back, and we can just talk about what happened on Saturday and nothing else. That's the hope. I got my fingers crossed that everything is the way it's supposed to be. But I digress. You guys enjoy the rest of the week. Enjoy the joint practice. Enjoy the preseason game. And hopefully I'll be able to get to you at some point over the weekend. If not, you know what it is. I'll see you guys on the other side of this trip when I get back. God bless. Oh, yeah. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. You guys get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your night. God bless. Good night.